One thing that I talk about a lot with all my clients is the benefits of a mindfulness or meditation practice,
Mhm.
especially with my clients that are going through infertility treatments. And even more so for those who are experiencing a lot of anxiety about what they're going through and a lot of fear.
Welcome to the Medical Trauma Support Podcast, the show where we shine a light on the hidden impacts of medical trauma, explore tools for healing, and empower you to take control of your health journey. I'm Sarah, your host, a passionate advocate for trauma-informed care, somatic healing, and compassionate conversations. I'll bring you expert insights, healing strategies, and personal stories of resilience to help you feel seen, heard, and supported on your path to recovery. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Medical Trauma Support Podcast. Today, I have Emily Guarnotta with me, and she is the founder of Phoenix Health. So, Emily, I was thinking we could start out with you telling the listeners what Phoenix Health is, what you do, and I would also love to know why you started it, like the story behind what motivated you to start a business.
Sure. So, Phoenix Health, we're an online mental health practice, and we work with perinatal mental health. So, we work with families that are navigating infertility, pregnancy loss, pregnancy, postpartum, and even postpartum, and we support them during their journeys.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I founded Phoenix Health was really out of my own personal experience. When I had my first child, I experienced postpartum depression, and I was working as a mental health professional at the time. And I kind of naively thought that I would be exempt from experiencing any kind of perinatal mental health condition. I was very aware of the statistics, how common it was, but I just kind of naively thought that I would be protected from it. So when I did have a really hard time postpartum, it really opened my eyes. And it
Mm-hmm.
took me quite a long time to admit that's what was happening and to seek help. So after I went through my own healing journey, I got back into my own therapy and I was able to recover. I wanted to re-specialize in this area and help other families that are going through it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so interesting that so many of the people that I've talked to on the podcast that are doing work to help others heal, it's because of their own personal journey. And I just think there's so much wisdom and compassion, like deep compassion that forms when the person providing support has like walked through the fire themselves. So I think it's really beautiful that you're able to take that part of your life and the healing from that and turn it into something that serves other people.
Thank you so much. And I think it's healing for me too, and for the other people who have been through really difficult situations who help are able to find some purpose from it and to give back.
Yes,
And I think that we're able to help other people, but we're also really helping ourselves at the same time too. So it's kind of mutually beneficial in that way.
I agree. I feel like that's been a big part of my journey, just starting medical trauma support and doing the podcast, is I do feel like while I'm doing it to spread awareness and to help other people on their healing journeys, I feel like it's so healing to me too. Like I still get so like inspired by showing up with people who are in their journey, and it's amazing. It is very healing. I think it's kind of a lifelong process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I just want everyone to know that what we're going to talk about today, we're focusing on infertility and some of the common things that can happen, and some of the common medical traumas that can happen in the experience of infertility. And maybe also, Emily, kind of sharing some of what you see like to be kind of the common struggles and how people have been able to find support through those for the people listening who may be in this journey themselves or who may be in trying to heal from the medical trauma that came from their journey.
Yeah. Infertility is something, it's a really difficult journey for families that find themselves on it. It's like one of those clubs that you never want to be a part of. And
Mhm.
it's deep, like a lot of medical traumas, it's deeply isolating. And it's like this yearning for wanting to be a parent, wanting to have a child, and feeling like everyone around you is able to do that, and seeing the people in your life become parents and you feeling so stuck.
Mhm.
It's really, really hard for families that are going through that.
Yeah, I can imagine that, like, it could be very triggering to see other people that are pregnant or other people that have kids just out about in your regular day to day.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it kind of feels like it's always in your face.
Mhm.
Um, and for a lot of people that are going through this, a lot of their, often they're in a stage of life where a lot of their family and friends are having children. So they're
Mhm.
getting invited to baby showers and first birthdays and things that can feel very triggering. And then they're faced with kind of having to make those decisions around, do I say yes and endure this with a lot of discomfort? Do I say no, but then I feel kind of guilty and
Mhm.
isolated, and having to constantly make those decisions? How much do I share about what I'm going through with the people around me? How much will they understand it? Do I share it with with my colleagues, with my family? I have to
Mhm.
hear their opinions about maybe the types of infertility treatments that I'm choosing to do. Um, so it's a lot, and it feels very, very isolating.
Mhm. Yeah, and when you and I met, we talked about how that's obviously one really challenging layer to infertility, but another aspect of infertility is, or the journey through infertility is the medical aspect of it and what they have to go through as they're trying to conceive a child.
Yeah, and everyone's journeys look so different. Um, but a lot of the clients that find their way to us in our practice feel really defeated, that they've tried a lot of different routes to parenthood, a lot of different types of treatments. And I was actually just right before this, I was on a call with a couple of infertility doctors, and they were talking about how just that how so many times people will come to them for infertility treatment and they're already feeling so defeated because they've
Mhm.
probably been trying to conceive for quite a while and it hasn't been happening. So their anxiety and even their depression might already be at a higher level. And then for those where the treatments aren't working and they're not working and they're trying, and um, sometimes there are losses involved too during that journey. There's pregnancy losses, or just that constant feeling of being disappointed, waiting for that positive pregnancy result, and then if you're not getting it, and then that anxiety and that depression just compound and grow. um, it's really, really hard, and all those, and then you have the difficulty of seeing other people maybe becoming parents and feeling isolated, and getting commentary from other people in your life who might have opinions about what you should be doing, or who might unintentionally invalidate your feelings too by telling you, just relax and it'll happen, and things like
Right.
that. It's just so many, it's like a whole cluster of emotions um, that are a part of that. But the medical trauma is, it is a really big piece of it. And what I often hear from the clients that I work with, um, they often feel the birthing person who's experiencing going through the treatments themselves can often even feel like their partners don't really get it
Mhm.
because they're not going through the medical side of it, and it's
Yeah.
really all on them. um, their hormones feel very dysregulated. The sheer amount of doctor's appointments that they have to attend and keep up with, and timing things out, um, it's all very, very stressful. And at the same time, you're still trying to live your life and maintain your job and keep up with your household. And if you have other children, take care of them. So life still goes on while you're dealing with all this medical trauma.
Mhm. Yeah, and with the people that you're working with, who have experienced the medical trauma, what are you finding is supportive for them?
There's a couple things. I think really having a safe space where you can unload it all is very important. And that can be therapy, or that can be a support group, or that could be just a friend who has either gone through it or is just really empathic and can
Mhm.
hear you. But often often I think people who are going through this feel like they can't really be honest with
Mhm.
anyone in their lives because they won't necessarily understand all the feelings. And some of the feelings can feel pretty dark,
Mhm.
like the anger that you might feel that you have to attend this baby shower. It's hard to kind of verbalize that,
Mhm.
and you're worried that other people might judge you for saying something like that.
Yeah.
So having some kind of a safe space, I think, is super important for coping with that medical trauma, and then also post healing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked what you said about, having that support and that it doesn't have to be one thing. It doesn't have to look one way. And I think the more support you can get, the better. Again, being thoughtful about the support because you may want to talk to your mom or somebody else who you love very much, and they may not understand it and you may be invalidated. But yeah, finding a therapist who's knowledgeable about the infertility journey, um, but finding a support group of other people who are going through it, and sometimes people who maybe are a little bit further down the path, and have some wisdom. I find can be really helpful just in general with any kind of struggle that we're having, like medical trauma. Um, yeah, I love that. I think support is crucial. And, the other thing that I talk a lot about with people is about the body and movement and somatic work. And I was curious what you see with your clients as far as having, a regular movement practice or, both movement, but also really helping them to understand what's going on in their nervous systems during this process and during the healing journey.
Yeah, I think it's very important for people to understand, like you said, what's going on in their nervous systems and then what they can do about that and how
Mhm.
they can induce more of a relaxation response if they're feeling like they're going into that fight or flight mode. One
Mhm.
thing that I talk about a lot with all my clients is the benefits of a mindfulness or meditation practice,
Mhm.
especially with my clients that are going through infertility treatments, and even more so for those who are experiencing a lot of anxiety about what they're going through and a lot of fear.
Mhm.
And when I talk about mindfulness, usually the first reaction I get from my clients is like, I can't focus, I can't concentrate, or I don't have time for it, or my brain just can't do it. And I always try to say, like, just hold on a second. Let me just explain a little bit more about what mindfulness actually entails. It might not be exactly what you're thinking. And the way that I like to teach it is I like to explain that to find some kind of an anchor, whether that's your breath or whether that's if you're listening to a guided meditation or you're listening to some music, and to observe the thoughts that are coming up, recognizing those thoughts and then letting them go. And I always explain to them, like, you're going to have another thought. That's completely normal. The goal is not to eliminate all your thoughts, it's simply to acknowledge when you have a thought that comes up and then to practice that letting go. And if you do that 100 times in 5 minutes, that's completely okay. You're kind of strengthening that muscle of being able to have a little bit more control over your thoughts and where your brain goes. And with some practice, that can help folks be able to kind of recognize, like, okay, I'm having an anxious thought about this upcoming treatment, or as I'm waiting for to take my pregnancy test. And then I can kind of like accept, because a lot of with infertility in particular, there's a lot that feels out of your control.
Mhm.
So when there's not something you can really do to solve the problem or to fix it, it really is about learning to let go. And I
Yes.
try to teach my clients how to do that in a way that doesn't feel like letting go is giving up, that it's like
Right.
can be an empowering action that you take.
Yeah, I feel like that is so helpful with really any kind of medical trauma is, to first of all, yeah, be able to anchor somewhere because it can feel so overwhelming And to be able to find any kind of anchor is like helps you almost like have like this little place in the storm, right? This one little space in the storm. Um, yes, but I want to go to anchor though. I want to hear more about when you are teaching somebody about mindfulness and you teach them about anchoring in. What are some visualizations or help the listeners understand what that means and how they can do that at home themselves?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to teach mindfulness and meditation. So by no means the ends all be all. And I think people have to figure out what works for them. But I like to offer with my clients in particular, because they often have a lot of resistance to trying mindfulness. So I like to offer them a lot of different options and encourage them to try them and figure out which ones they like and work better with their lifestyle. But when it comes to anxiety, I really like to focus on the breath
Mhm.
and breath work and incorporating mindfulness into that deep breathing exercise.
Mm.
So I'll guide them through how to deep breathe and actually teach them, to take a 4 second long deep inhale, how it should feel in their diaphragm and their body, to hold briefly and then to exhale for slightly longer and to let that go. And again, as they're practicing it and they're doing several rounds of this, to be aware that the thoughts are going to come up, random, all sorts of thoughts, and just to notice that and then to let that thought just send it down the stream and let it go and then come back to the breath. And again, like that could happen 100 times in 5 minutes. That's completely okay. You just want to keep doing that process. And then next time it might only happen 200 times.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you would be open to maybe us taking 2 minutes and to lead the listeners through what you would do for one of your clients who is maybe experiencing anxiety. You talked about how that deep breath should feel in their body. Would you be open to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Great.
Yeah, so I start by encouraging people to kind of get comfortable. So if possible, to sit upright. I actually have to admit, I do a lot of my meditations lying down, which is counter to what a lot of guys will tell you to do, but whatever, it works for me.
Mhm.
But just get in a comfortable position for you. And if you're comfortable with it, you can close your eyes, but that's not required. And just to take a second, just notice kind of how your body feels, how your environment feels. Maybe notice the temperature in the room. Notice if you're feeling any sensations in your hands, your fingers, your arms, your legs. And just notice if you are having any thoughts right now in this moment. And if you are, simply picture that thought. Picture yourself on the bank of a stream and place that thought on a leaf in that stream and then send that thought down the stream. And now let's take a 4 second inhale together. So inhale through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Just going to hold it there. And now we're going to exhale for 6 through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now just check in if you have, again, any thoughts that have come up. Visualize placing that thought on the leaf and then send that leaf down the stream. We'll do one more round. So we're going to do another inhale through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold. Now we're going to exhale through your mouth for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can just check in again how you feel. Notice any differences in your breathing, in your body, in your mind. I really like the leaves on a stream visualization.
Mhm. I do too. I loved that. I think when you said that, I probably got a smile. It was so beautiful. I love being by like small bodies of water and, in the woods, and to be able to visualize that and to be really gentle with the thought. We're not like telling it to go away. We're saying, "Oh, hello. Let me put you here." And it's like a gentle floating down the stream. Um, yeah, that was really beautiful. I definitely feel some more parasympathetic relaxation kind of vibes um, after just, a very short practice. And it's so funny. The breath that you do is very similar to one that I share with people called straw breath. So it's in for a count of 4. We don't hold, and then we go out for a count of 6 with lips pursed as though you're drinking from a straw. So very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love trying different things and seeing what works for folks.
hmm And I think it's really beautiful to bring in the mindfulness, because I don't think I talk a lot about that on the podcast. I talk a lot more about the body and the nervous system, but they're all connected, right? So when we can be really gentle with our thoughts and do some breath, that's having an impact on the nervous system. So I was able to shift a little bit into more of a parasympathetic place, even though the word we were using to describe it was mindfulness.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a different language, but it's um similar ideas and similar outcomes or places to go.
hmm
Just
And I
sometimes
also like it gives people choices, right? It gives the clients or listeners choices, because for a lot of people who've experienced medical trauma and infertility, sometimes the body doesn't feel safe at first, right? Because the trauma's happened there, or in the experience of infertility, there may be some anger toward the body for, the pregnancy not happening easily. So I think for a lot of people, being able to think about the mind and the thoughts more than thinking about getting into their body can be a safer place to sit, is with more of the thoughts and more of the mind.
Absolutely. And, I think a lot of times when you've gone through medical trauma and you've been going through infertility, you're kind of used to being told you need to do X, Y, or Z, or this is the treatment plan, this is what we're going to do. And you really don't have a say in it. So
Mhm.
when I work with clients, I like to give them choices and say, there's a lot of different ways that I can teach you how to relax. Here are some of the ways that I typically do that. Let's try a couple of them and see, you pick what works for
Mhm.
you because you're the expert on your minds. Um,
Mhm.
and just having that power to make that choice, I think, is really important. And when you're in a situation where you feel like you don't necessarily have power or control.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that is an aspect of the medical experience that can be so challenging for people, is that it can feel very much out of our control. It's like our body, our life, our experience, and things are happening to us that we can't necessarily control. Um, and of course, it depends on what's happening. There are definitely times to speak up and advocate for yourself. But, many people that I've talked to were in an accident or had a surgical procedure. Something happened that was unexpected. And in that moment, you may be under general anesthesia, but you're oftentimes unable to advocate for yourself. And so there really, truly is a lack of control. And that is so challenging and such a common part of why something could be experienced as traumatic, especially with our body. It's like it's our life, it's our body. And to have that feeling of being out of control can be so challenging. And so I love that um, we can really be thoughtful and aware of choices after we've experienced something like that. So, yes, wow, that was out of my hands. That was out of my control. But I do actually now in life where I am right now have the ability to choose what I do next.
Mhm.
And I love that you talked about that. I think that that's such an important piece to this puzzle.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And something that I think comes up a lot too, particularly with going through the process of infertility, is a lot of times people are going through the motions. They feel like they're on this roller coaster that they have to keep up. So it doesn't provide a lot of space for them to sit with their feelings. And
Mhm,
sometimes it's not till after, whether that's um, making a decision to not have children and to pursue other ways to connect, or to fill that maternal or parental role, or they do conceive a child or find a way to have a child, and then they're postpartum or postpartum, and then like all these feelings can kind of come back.
mhm,
Is really surprising for people when they're like, I don't understand why all this is coming up now when I went through this a year 2+ years ago.
mhm,
It's because they never really had an opportunity to process it in the moment. They were trying to hold it together. They were doing
mhm.
everything that they needed to do. And then it really hits them later, kind of like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, it what it makes me think about is just how so often when we're in the midst of the really challenging event, we we don't have capacity to process it, right? It's like a self-protective thing. And so once we get to the other side and there's like a little bit of safety and a little and more capacity, that's when it's like, hello, here I am. It's time for me to come up and be seen. And yeah, I think that's such a common experience, even beyond infertility.
Mhm. Yeah, and for those who go through infertility and do go on to have children, they're also then navigating the whole identity of becoming a parent, and if they're
Mhm,
postpartum and recovering from childbirth and all these things that are difficult by themselves, but then they have this infertility trauma prior to that, that it's
mhm,
very overwhelming to kind of sort through all these different feelings that are coming up. And we know, becoming a parent, it's really, really hard.
mhm,
And when you fought so hard to become a parent, and then you're finally a parent, and then you're realizing how hard it is, and maybe some days you even think to yourself, like, I kind of wish I had my old life back. And then
mhm,
you're met with so much guilt. These are all normal, common feelings that we all have.
mhm.
But when you've really fought to have a child and they're here, and then you're struggling, it's like this extra layer of guilt and shame.
Right,
We all need a safe space to be able to share all these feelings and hear someone tell us, like, these feelings are okay, and you have a
right,
right to feel them.
right. Just to normalize this experience that we're so many of us are out here having, right? And just to hear like, you're not alone. This is such a common thing can just be like, ooh, it almost like takes the pressure off. Like, okay, there's nothing wrong. I'm having a very common experience that millions of other people are experiencing or have experienced.
Yeah, that common humanity, you know,
Yes.
when you're isolated, you're not talking to anyone about it, it often feels like it's just you.
Yes. Yes. Yet another reason to find support and to be with people who can see you and validate how you're feeling. Um, yeah, but what that takes me to, Emily, is what I wanted to ask you, is what tell us more about how to work with you with Phoenix Health, and also if you have anything like groups coming up. I don't know if y'all do like groups for people navigating infertility, or anything like that. I'd love for the listeners to hear ways that they can connect with you and get support.
Yeah, so our practice is able to offer services in 40 states.
Mhm,
We do take most major insurance plans, and you can find us at our website. It's just joinphoenixhealth.com.
mhm,
And then you're able to learn more and sign up for a consultation and do everything you need to connect with us through there. Right now, we mainly offer individual and couples therapy for
mhm,
families navigating infertility. But there are so many amazing organizations out there that do offer support groups. So
Mhm.
I want to shout out Resolve, which is a wonderful nonprofit um, that's exclusively focused on supporting families through infertility. They have a great list of support groups. And Postpartum Support International is another nonprofit that also offers free online support groups. And they have some specifically for families that have gone through infertility. So
Oh, that's
these are
wonderful. I
great.
didn't know that. I love Postpartum Support International, but I hadn't zeroed in on that as well. I love that they do that. So, for anybody listening, that will be in the show notes. You can find links to Phoenix Health, Resolve, Postpartum Support International. Um, yeah. And is there anything else you want to share before we end this episode?
I just think that that message of you're not alone when you're going through, like you said, any kind of medical trauma and infertility, it feels sometimes like you're the only one.
Mhm.
But there really are so many people who have been in your shoes. And like you said, if you can connect to someone who, whether they're in your situation now or they're a bit farther along in their journeys, so you can have brothers and sisters to connect with, um, it's really so healing to go through it together.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Emily. It was really nice to talk to you. And I think this is a topic that there should be more awareness around it. I feel like I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. I think partly because it is such vulnerable, um, journey to be in. So I'm really thankful that you came on and we can share this with more people.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Medical Trauma Support Podcast. If you are looking for some tips to soothe your own nervous system, you can go to my website and find a free guide to doing that. The website is medicaltraumasupport.com.